Wednesday, the 11th of June, 2025, and I have shared a lot of information on my other social media platforms. I have a little bit of a lag that I can see. I hope this gets rectified, but so I'm going to get right into it. I'll start with, because I'm going to show from Instagram and X. All right. Here we go. I'll start with X. So this is from Concerned Canadian, who agrees with Pierre Poilievre that we should close the door on immigration at this time until we find solutions to the myriad, he's saying myriad of, but it should be myriad societal and economic issues confronting our country. So I'm just going to play this video just to
Border security bill
from his
that
mouth.
was tabled last week, Bill C2. You have enough of your views on it. Can you give us?
Well, we support a stronger border. We want severe limits on population growth to reverse the damage the Liberals did to our system. The population has been growing out of control. Our borders have been left wide open. This has caused the free flow of drugs, human trafficking, illegal migration, and much worse.
Yep.
And that is why we want a stronger border. We want to crack down on abuses in the immigration system. And we want to ensure that that any frauds in the refugee system are reversed. Those are the things we're looking at, but we're also going to study the bill carefully to make sure that the long-standing Canadians who are following the law are not having their rights and freedoms violated. Thank you.
Okay, so that was good. Love that. From Aaron Gunn, Liberals gave millions to their friends who performed no work. They are now under RCMP investigation. Meanwhile, the ministers responsible have been promoted. My question, when will the hardworking taxpayers of this country get their money back? So this is from Aaron Gunn.
Scandal, far from being held.
Member for North Island, Powell River.
$64.5 million. That's how much taxpayer money this Liberal government gifted their friends over at the top, Arrive scam contractor. Friends, Mr. Speaker, who are now under RCMP investigation, yet the Trudeau ministers responsible for this scandal, far from being held accountable, have actually been promoted to the Ministers of U.S. Trade, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Minister of Jobs. So my question to the Prime Minister is, when will there be some actual accountability for the millions of dollars in fraud, and when will the hardworking men and women of this country get their money back?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Mr. Speaker, and let me be very clear, misconduct of any kind by suppliers is never acceptable, and we will always hold bad actors to account.
Oh my God. Okay, so more on that, obviously. Obviously, this is something that I have a little bit of a bias because I'm someone that is incorporated with top secret clearance, and like I'm an international security analyst, like I've said. I apologize for saying it, but I'm just saying I was fighting this because I wanted the contracts that McKinsey and GC Strategies, all these people were getting, these companies, Arrive scam app, and I was sharing actual real data and evidence and doing actual real work, even for free, and offering my services for free. And these people were getting the contracts. A lot of these people also, they're not even Canadian. So I was Canadian. I was a female. So your DEI, ESG, like I fit that mold. I'm bilingual, etc. And I had my clearances, and I actually did good work, and I had references to back it up. And so I did but I did respond to Michelle Ferrari because she was sharing this as well. And I'm stating exactly that. And it's to shame these people, because we would have saved Canadians billions of dollars had I been hired on early on during COVID, because of all the money that was wasted just about, like, regarding the pandemic alone, and the my God, and the inoculations and the masks and the signs and the this and the that. Like, it was just. And they were also, get this, these COVID teams were coming in from the UK and other countries to police our own Canadians. So they were getting contracts and a lot of money. And so the people that I was trying to talk to share information, these COVID teams, like the higher ups, like they were friggin' not even Canadian. They were UK here for temporary work, I guess. And again, not using Canadians.
Given the investigations you've done so far
in our security industries. Make it make sense,
on
please.
McKinsey and GC Strategies.
Oh.
Given the investigations you've done so far on McKinsey and GC Strategies, do you have a sense at this point of how widespread these issues are in the public service?
Well, I can only speak to those two elements, and in both cases, the vendors represented a really small percentage of what was spent on professional services contracts by the federal government. But in the McKinsey work, we had looked at 10 Crown corporations and 10 departments. In this audit, there's 31 federal organizations, including one Crown and departments. And we found issues in almost every contract that we looked at, which tells me that there's no reason to believe it's limited to these two. And it's time for the public service to go back to the basics and understanding procurement rules and why they should be followed.
Given the investigations you've done so far on McKinsey and GC strategies, do you have a sense at this point?
Dr. Jay Bhattacharya just spent 4.5 hours on Andrew Huberman's podcast discussing health. He revealed mind-blowing facts about autism research, vaccine safety, and how our medical establishment really works. Here are 8 of his most shocking insights. This is from Carl Mehta. And yeah, I like both these guys. I think they're incredibly smart, so I'm definitely going to listen to that podcast when I have time. And so let's see here. Number 1, his own university tried to silence him. Stanford's dean directly told Bhattacharya to stop speaking to the press during COVID. That's correct. He's already shared that as well. They even ordered him to redo his immunity study when they didn't like the results. Stanford failed the academic freedom test, he said. Yeah. So let me hear him say that.
So I was asked to stop going on the press in 2020. I was by the dean of the university, dean of the medical school, right?
Dean.
My academic freedom was pretty directly threatened. I wrote and published a study on measuring antibodies in the population, a study that's now replicated dozens of times around the world. And I was essentially ordered to redo that study. They interfered even before I had sent the paper in for publication. When I say they, I mean the administration of the medical school. I mean my academic freedom was pretty directly attacked. And I wrote a piece with how Stanford failed the academic freedom test. You can go read it if folks who want to read about it. So I was asked to stop.
Evidence, if any, what is the evidence, if any, that a vaccine, some specific vaccine, causes autism? And is the NIH and CDC and the new administration going to take a serious second look at this?
Yeah, so I don't want to comment on the Wakefield situation because I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Well, all we know is what happened. He lost his medical license.
And I should say, we're talking about one study, right? I believe that replication matters. And so there are, I think, on the MMR vaccine, some excellent studies that fail to find a correlation or a causal link between MMR vaccination,
measles, mumps, rubella,
a vaccine that's really, I think, important for the childhood, for kids, and autism. There's a massive Danish study that tracks patients who were vaccinated, kids who were vaccinated, matched with similar patients who are not, tracks them for a year or longer and years, and finds no difference.
Okay.
Or fails to find a difference in autism rates. There's people there's all kinds of. If you look on the online and elsewhere, there's all kinds of fights over that. But to me, that's pretty good evidence. For the MMR vaccine. For some of the other vaccines, there's been less of a focus to ask whether it's correlated to vaccines,
such as polio vaccine.
I don't know this literature, so I shouldn't comment. But I don't remember seeing a study specifically asking whether the polio vaccine is linked to autism.
When I was growing up, every kid got the polio vaccine.
Yeah.
Measles, mumps, rubella.
I think those are DPT. Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple others. There were probably 4 or 5 vaccines, as I recall.
I think that there's good evidence on the MMR vaccine of failing to find a link with autism. And I don't know the full extent of this literature, so I shouldn't comment too much. But when I've looked, I haven't seen quite the same level of evidence for some of the other vaccines failing. They just haven't looked. As a general matter, I think it's an unlikely, just from a biological point of view, unlikely to be the main reason why the rise in autism, which is now well documented, you talked about it, has occurred. You wrote a paper in 2005. A colleague of ours at Stanford named John Ioannidis, he wrote a paper in 2005. Absolutely brilliant scientist. I think the most highly cited living scientist in the world, right? So he wrote a paper in 2005 with the title "Why Most Published Biomedical Papers Are False." I mean, when you make a title like that for a scientific paper, it better be convincing. And in just a few pages, it's an utterly convincing paper. And it's not because scientists commit fraud. That's not the reasoning behind it. Because science is hard. It's exactly in exactly the way you just said, Andrew. So you publish a result. You believe it to be true. You have some statistically significant result at some level. We say p equals 0.05. What does that mean? That some percentage of the time, even though you believe the result is true, it's been peer reviewed by your colleagues. The peer review actually doesn't involve, as you know, the peer reviewers taking your data, rerunning your experiments. It doesn't mean any of that. They just read your paper, looked for logical flaws, didn't find any, and then they recommended the editor to be published. So the peer review is not a guarantee that it's true. You have some statistical significance that say that your data meet. Even with that, some percentage of the time, the published result is going to be false. Now, if you think of science a priori as hard, any result that you publish is most likely going to be a false positive result.
And there is a bias because a lot of these institutions are funded by these radicals, I like to call them, but these organizations where it's either big pharma or certain industry where the bias is they're giving you a lot of your funding, and so if a lot of people are pushing what narrative or what result these companies want to achieve, which is criminal.
The clinical late stage research. So the taxpayers in the United States are funding the basic research and the clinical late stage research.
Yes.
For the entire world.
Yes, in large part. I mean, like Europe does have some institutions that invest in basic research. So it's not entirely zero, and there are of course private foundations that do it, but through the NIH, that's the single largest investment in basic science research in the world, and through and as also applied research, and also
Global Fund, World Health Organization, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, Clinton Foundation. All right. Sam Cooper exposes Trudeau's government interference in CSIS operation. So this is from Donald Best, former law enforcement officer, also the target of the Crown, Blue on Blue, because of information he was sharing, what he was trying to expose. And so the politicization of CSIS and Canadian policing is complete. They no longer uphold the law. They enforce political agendas and ideology, duty, honor, rule of law, all betrayed by officers who chose pay over principle. And so Juno News, Sam Cooper exposed the truth. So you can go to the full link and watch it. So Sam Cooper exposes Trudeau's government interference in CSIS operation. Investigative journalist Sam Cooper, who broke massive stories on China's interference in Canada, joins Juno News with a shocking new scoop. Cooper reveals that a classified intelligence mission led by CSIS was abruptly halted not by lawful channels, but through political interference from the Prime Minister's office. The operation was halted without legal authority, bypassing both the CSIS director and public safety minister, and putting Canadian intelligence personnel in immediate danger. I posted this, self-driving EVs, taxis, you say. So this is regarding the vehicles that were burning during the riots. I'm just going to share that. Waymo, driverless cars destroyed in ongoing LA protests. The company, which has been operating in California just a few months, also pulled service from a handful of areas. Matthew Guy, published today, 2 hours ago. Several autonomous Waymo vehicles were set alight this weekend during protests in LA. It seems the driverless Jaguars became something of a target during the recent political unrest there. The company shut down or restricted service in both parts of LA and San Francisco. A total of 5 Waymo autonomous vehicles were spray painted and set alight in Los Angeles amid political unrest in the city, reports Automotive News. The machines were caught up in a spat of protests aimed at Trump administration's deployment of immigration and customs enforcement officers to the area. According to local media and boots on the ground, these Waymo vehicles, all of them Jaguar I-Pace EVs, were torched and burned after driving near areas of unrest. Black smoke is said to have plumed in the sky as a result of the conflagrations. Electric vehicle fires have a notorious reputation for being difficult to douse, thanks in part to the chemical composition of its major systems. To be certain, a traditional car fire is also no picnic from both contaminant and containment points of view. Anyway, it goes on from there, but autonomous self-driving robo-vehicles, very interesting. And the companies like Waymo also connected to New York and other areas, from what I was gathering from it. Anyway. Oh, yeah, this fucking clown. Anyway. All right, now on to Instagram. I don't know if I shared this yesterday, but I'm sharing it again.
Do this and then I'm going to go make strawberry scones. But when we talked about how this thing that was going on in Los Angeles was paid agitators, this is what I meant. I remember back when the Black Lives Matter riots were happening as well, they had very similar Craigslist ads looking for the toughest badasses in the city of Los Angeles, seeking extremely tough, brave men for a new crew on building. Compensation is $6,500 to $125,000 per week. Get paid every week no matter what. Physical strength needed, mental toughness, ready for confrontation when necessary. However, we train you if necessary. Bravery, reliability, strength, team discipline. They'd like you to have military experience, but if you're a Marine, then they do not want you in their group because it's apparently a long story. Job title is listed as operator, and there's no experience required, and it's contracted work. And they were looking in the greater Los Angeles area. Obviously, they're not going to tell you exactly what it's for. Wait for you to call and then explain it. This is what happened during the Black Lives Matter riots, is they would put out these Craigslist ads, and then all these people would call, and then they would recruit all these people to go be agitators at these events. They would turn what was initially a peaceful protest of just marching into a full-blown riot, and that's the very same thing that's happening here. Who can afford that kind of bankroll? Well, NoKings.org can. Apparently this whole thing has been planned for a really long time. They're trying to get more in different days on different states. Specifically, June 14th seems to be a pretty big hot button. They're looking at Phoenix, Atlanta, and a handful of other major cities.
Phoenix, Atlanta.
You can go to the map on the website and just take a look. Here's some of the organizations that they're working with, and there's a lot of them, but I'm going to go through a couple. There's Bend the Arc, which is Jewish Action. Bernie Sanders, which I don't know. Americans United, Blue Anchor, Cast, Demlist, Families Over Billionaires, Faithful America, Fair Share America.
Bernie's in on this because he's been sponsored by Big Pharma now for a long, long time, millions of dollars a year. And yes, of course, he doesn't like the fact that Trump's calling these companies out. And again, there's red flags with Trump, too. I'm not saying there's not. And I'll get into that. But again, what a superior option than Kamala Harris or Biden.
America Face the Music, Federal Workers Against Doge, Fund Federal Unionist Network, The Feminist Majority, Bulletproof Pride, Catholics Vote Common Good, Care in Action, Center for Common Ground. I mean, there's tons of them. That's who's paying for it. This has been in the works for a really long time. That should
do the actual Catholics in the world actually support this?
Be really nothing new to you. But here's what I will say, okay, with all the paid agitators and all the things going on, there are going to be very real.
These are not real organizations like you think they are, like these Catholic titles and Mennonites and Amish. These are cover companies, organizations, whatever you want to call them, shell, and they're utilized to funnel money.
People who believe this is a very real march for justice that are going to be boots on the ground down there thinking that they're doing something. So if you, your family, your friends are thinking about getting together and heading down there and sticking it to the man, don't. Because all of those paid agitators, they have protection, right? They'll get lawyers, they'll get bailed out of jail, but guess who won't? You won't.
There's lawyers on the ground. Activist lawyers, they like the types, again, that I say it's a two-tiered justice system and they're not helping anyone. I'll get into that.
You will not. You will be left on your own. Here's to hoping you learned the first time with the BLM stuff. Don't do it. Don't ruin your life. Don't ruin your life over this. Don't ruin your job opportunities over this. Don't do it. This is all staged. It's all orchestrated. It's all political. All right, I gotta go. We'll see you later.
Look at this. This guy apparently, despite the fact that he's a coward wearing a helmet to try to, he thinks that he's not going to get caught. He got caught apparently a few hours after this was posted. And I hope he gets either deported if he's an illegal immigrant, because that's a crime. And if he is a legal immigrant or like a Californian American citizen, jail. I really hope this is not if there's protections against this clown by these activist lawyer group and judges. Oh my God. I know a couple of law enforcement guys that were saying, like, drive up on the curve. This is attempted murder. This is assault. The vehicles can be used. Anyway, I won't say it. Don't do that. Sam Cooper is should have been at this, but there's more updates. So, like, further to his X post, Elon Musk again saying exactly. Anyways, hey Trump world, why the fuck is the National Endowment for Democracy still getting government funding? Do you like riots? Because this is how you get riots. And so, like, that's not the only organization that's funding these riots and protests, but definitely a big one. And it's even being backed by Elon anyway.
Just found.
But again, red flags with him too.
Just
He's in on it, I think, with pushing Palantir, like this biodigital convergence, this massive surveillance overreach internationally, and freedoms, guys.
Found a really great deep dive here from the Data Republican on X. So who is behind all these crazy riots in LA and that will be across the nation? Just like, remember, in the Summer of Love with BLM, remember who's organizing all that stuff? With this specifically is being funded by an individual by the name of Neville Singham, who actually made his money by pushing communist Chinese propaganda, became a billionaire doing it. He's now funding, and the guy behind all of these protests was also behind and tied to the protests at Columbia University, pushing all of that BS, if you don't remember. And then also too, if you actually look at the social organization that's putting out these flyers, it's the Party for Socialism and Liberation, which is, and I kid you not, the actual Communist Party. So
yeah, so when they're talking, when people that are normal and understand history, when they hear Communist Party, it's like it elicits the same response to people that are normal and healthy as saying the KKK. And I know that sounds extreme to people, but I'm saying this is because there's people at varying degrees of radicalization within the KKK. We've shared that, and the Proud Boys, and the Three Percenters, and all these groups. Okay, this is what communist, Marxist, socialists, how they're being interpreted by the rest of society, like the normal, healthy people that know what actually went down in Europe, but know actually went down like in so many other areas, and the millions and millions of Christians and other groups that were murdered, even from people within government, like literally creating like the Holodomor, etc., and completely oblivious to that, right? And so you sound like the KKK extremists, and you're doing a lot more damage to your country now than these groups too. So it's like my mind is blown that we're at this level right now.
they're using Hispanics, they're using illegal immigrants, they're trying to hype people up thinking that they care, but they don't care. They would stop illegal.
Like when you think of Nazi or KKK, like this is what I mean. Like this is what these groups are, or it elicits the same emotional response in people that actually know history.
Immigration. Obama deported people. Why all of a sudden now? It's political. Just found a really great deep dive here from the data.
I've been calling out Laura Loomer for a lot of biased propaganda that she's pushed, and so I'm doing it again. And so she's saying time to deploy Palantir tech to Los Angeles to deal with the illegals. You know you'd love to see it. You're lying if you say you wouldn't. What the hell are you talking about? So Mindy MF Robinson, I wouldn't. I've seen this psyops enough to know how giving up our rights for safety really works, especially for contrived violence. No matter which way you look at it, the government is behind these riots for California's laxness on leftist crime, if nothing else.
I think he chased her down, just try to make.
Yeah, so this is what the left is supporting right now. Like literally having legal teams, all of that stuff to get to make it where these people avoid any bail conditions, anyway, or being deported.
Chased her down, just try to make small talk, and obviously she was minding her own business and she just didn't want to engage. But you can see through the video that he got more aggressive at the very end.
Other residents witnessed the assault.
I think he chased her down, just try to make small talk, and obviously she was minding her own business.
That's what your taxpayers' money is going towards.
I think he chased her down.
The most effective way.
Alex Karp, again, I have videos on him as well.
The most effective way for social change is humiliate your enemy and make them poorer.
I don't think in win-lose. I think in domination. I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us.
The most effective way for social change is humiliate your enemy and make them poorer.
I don't think in win-lose. I think in domination. I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us.
The most effective way for social change is humiliate.
Oh yeah, and who is Alex Karp? Oh yeah, the co-founder of Palantir. Yeah, he wants to shame and make poor, and humiliate and make poor his enemies.
Humiliate your enemy and make them poorer.
I don't think in win-lose. I think in domination. I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who try.
Fucking crazy. Okay, so yeah.
The most effective way for social.
You're crazy. Wicked witch types. Listen to Dr. Jordan Peterson on that. He's also a little biased. Who funds him? Heritage Foundation, Project Esther. This is my garden. I was weeding it yesterday evening when I got a little cooler out. What happened after this?
Cosmetic work.
Wasaga Beach, 1988. A few hours away from here.
Cosmetic work.
This is wild. A mysterious...
Do you guys remember this guy, Christopher Schultz, the man who was arrested last...
This is wild. A mysterious black truck just passed out all of these expensive bionic face shields to protesters in LA, and the news caught it on camera. I zoomed in and found out this is the UVEX bionic shield. These are not cheap. They're around $45 to $65, and you can't just get them in bulk. But one place that sells them is Walmart. And why is that important? Because there's a new protest being promoted called No Kings on June 14th. And even celebrities like Chrissy Teigen are posting it. And it's in magazines and newspapers. And guess who's behind this message? Christy Walton. That's right, one of the billionaire heiresses, a part of the Walmart family. Now, I don't know why they would be behind that protest against President Trump, but remember, just less than 3 weeks ago, President Trump tweeted about the whole tariff situation, saying Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars of last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as is said, eat the tariffs and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers.
So more on Alex Karp.
This
obviously.
is.
I just made.
But I'll get into this as well. And so just a friggin' Google search of Alex Karp government contracts, guys and girls. Alex Karp government contracts. Alex Karp's the co-founder and CEO of Palantir Technologies. I know this is redundant for people that have watched my channel for a while. I'm sorry. Has been involved in several significant government contracts with the American government. Palantir's government contracts span various departments, including the Defense Department and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. During the pandemic, which I like to call the plandemic, the Biden administration signed a contract with Palantir to manage the distribution of vaccines through the CDC. You want that in, Lara Loomer? You little psychopath? In the Trump administration, and people are too afraid to say this out loud, right? You know, especially anyway. In the Trump administration, Palantir's stock saw a significant increase, rising more than 140% since Trump's election. Palantir is also involved in a contract with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, which has been a point of controversy. Karp has defended this contract, stating that while family separations are a complex moral issue, he favors a fair but rigorous immigration policy. Does he now? Palantir has also been involved in contracts with the U.S. Army, securing a contract worth more than $400 million. The company's work with the Trump administration has included assisting in immigration enforcement and deportation, with Palantir being tapped by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to create a master immigration database. Yeah, that was a while ago. Karp has expressed his belief in the importance of Palantir's work, stating that the company's mission is to make the West, especially America, the strongest in the world for the sake of global peace and prosperity. He's also emphasized the importance of maintaining strong relationships with government agencies, saying that warfighters depend on Palantir's software. He is a extremist radical Marxist, by the way. The irony in that. JCCF. This is from Mario.
I just made the most badass discovery. I don't understand how I didn't know about this before. But the JCCF, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, has to be hands down my favorite charity. As soon as you go on their website, their tagline is, "We defend freedom in Canada." And they legitimately do. Perfect example. They sent a legal warning letter to an Ontario school board for suspending an elected school council member, her name's Catherine, who, at a council meeting, asked that her respectful objection to land acknowledgements be noted in the minutes. And there was no disruption whatsoever. And then shortly thereafter, the school board let her know that her involvement in council is being paused, based on the fact that she caused harm and had violated a code of conduct policy, and she's not been permitted to attend the next scheduled meeting. And she's right. She was taken back by the board's decision after delivering a respectful objection, especially given the assurances made at previous council meetings outlined by the council bylaws that an open dialogue and diverse perspectives are welcomed. JCC, they stepped in. They also stepped in for the Freedom Convoy. They're the ones that stepped in to challenge the Prime Minister's decisions to prorogue government. BC's mandates for healthcare workers, that was them too. A nurse who wanted to endorse female safe spaces, she took her case to the Supreme Court. Guess who took it there? Forcible confinement of female inmates with trans-identifying males being challenged in court, that's active. And it's them defending freedom in Canada. Love these guys. I don't know how I haven't heard of them before or their cases. I just made the
boil down to essentially poor contract management on the part of the government.
So I think it's important to know that my mandate doesn't allow me to go look and audit GC strategies. I can't audit private organizations.
So that there's no misunderstanding today. This is a peaceful protest. This is a riot. We can tell the difference. The governor can tell the difference. Our law enforcement officers can tell the difference. In the event you didn't get that, let me show you something. This is a peaceful protest. This is looting. If you loot, the next thing you can try to steal is something off of your food tray at the county jail, because you're going to jail. That's a guarantee. And we're going to enjoy taking you down there. So that there's no misunderstanding today, this is a peaceful protest. This is a riot. We can tell the difference. The governor can tell the difference. Our law enforcement officers can tell the difference. In the event you didn't get that, let me show you something. This is a peaceful protest. This is looting. If you loot, the next thing you can try to steal is something off of your food tray at the county jail, because you're going to jail. That's a guarantee. And we're going to enjoy taking you down there. So that there's no misunderstanding today, this is a peaceful protest. This is a riot. We can tell the difference. The governor can tell the difference. Our law enforcement officers can tell the difference. In the event you didn't get that, let me show you something. This is a peaceful protest. This is looting. If you loot, the next thing you can try to steal is something off of your food tray at the county jail, because you're going to jail. That's a guarantee. And we're going to enjoy taking you down there. So that there's no misunderstanding today, this is a peaceful protest. So that there's
I have always been amused. I have always been amused by kind of a paradox. Suppose you go around and ask people. The United States, as you know, before 1914 had completely free immigration. Anybody could get on a boat and come to these shores, and if he landed on Ellis Island, he was an immigrant. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? You will find hardly a soul who will say it was a bad thing. Almost everybody will say it was a good thing. But then I suppose I say to the same people, but now what about today? Do you think we should have free immigration? Oh no, they'll say, we couldn't possibly have free immigration today. Why, that would flood us with immigrants from India and God knows where. We'd be driven down to a bare subsistence level. What's the difference? How can people be so inconsistent? Why is it that free immigration was a good thing before 1914 and free immigration is a bad thing today? Well, there's a sense in which that answer is right. There's a sense in which free immigration, in the same sense as we had it before 1914, is not possible today. Why not? Because it is one thing to have free immigration to jobs. It is another thing to have free immigration to welfare. And you cannot have both. If you have a welfare state, if you have a state in which every resident is promised certain minimum level of income or a minimum level of subsistence, regardless of whether he works or not, produces it or not, well then it really is an impossible thing. If you have free immigration in the way in which we had it before 1914, everybody benefited. The people who were here benefited, the people who came benefited. Because nobody would come unless he or his family thought he would do better here than he would elsewhere. And the new immigrants provided additional resources, provided additional possibilities for the people already here. So everybody could mutually benefit. But on the other hand, if you come under circumstances where each person is entitled to a pro rata share of the pot, to take the extreme example, or even to a low level of the pot, then the effect of that situation is that free immigration would mean a reduction of everybody to the same uniform level. Of course, I'm exaggerating. It wouldn't go quite that far, but it would go in that direction. And it is that perception that leads people to adopt what at first seem like inconsistent values. I have always been amused by...
And who really pushed this in the 70s and 80s? Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And so people are trying to blame the conservatives for also for just how insane immigration has gotten. Given the example of Harper as well during his term, it didn't blow up until the last 5 years, especially. And I've told you why and how people exploited COVID and this pandemic in order to monopolize in certain industries here even further, with real estate being number one on the list for economic stimulus, which Brookfield and Carney and other organizations are very much involved in, including China and other countries. And so immigration, foreign students coming here, they're getting screwed over. They're spending a lot more money, and also to organizations and employers working here part-time, stuff like that, in order to be able to afford to go to school here. And it's a grift for people that are within government right now, like literally in Ottawa. This is a grift, and it's screwing over a lot of people. And there's a lot of people coming here having to share housing, and because again, it's become unsustainable and also really expensive. And the same thing with temporary foreign workers, people that came here on work visas that are already expired or that are expiring very soon, and there's no plan or ability to manage this. Like, what do we do with these people that are here illegally now, exploiting the system? Even people alleging that they're minors, 14, 15 years old, when people in the dentist office are saying, experts, dentists, that are saying these molars or the teeth development, this is seen in adults. So they're even questioning the names of people. It's becoming such another grift in so many different ways, and a lot of people at the top have a lot of money to lose if they stop doing this, right? Including Olivia Chow and Doug Ford and others I've mentioned as well. And people that are part of the destruction companies and real estate companies, people that are building these homes, working with these contracts, exploiting people. And anyway, I'm going on all these tangents, but these are millions of people that are here illegally. And we have to come up with a way to obviously focus on people that are committing crimes, and as the first people to be deported, and then also have consideration for people that are here for legitimate reasons, and try to manage that piece, right? Where anyways, because again, this is very much gray. It's not black and white. And I would say at least hundreds of thousands of homes would open up for Canadians that again, this is a way to manage the housing crisis more significantly. And unfortunately, people that bought homes in 2022, 2023, they have been significantly impacted, buying homes during the peak of interest rates and housing being sold extremely high rates, way higher than the value. And so I think that they are, including myself, going to be losing money because we're not going to be able to sell I don't think, for the most part, we're not going to be able to sell at the same price point, right? So even if there's no capital gains tax hikes like that, Australia is already implementing, I see that possibly coming here in the next few years, especially under Carney. They're already looking at increasing property tax and so many other things, yet they're not able to manage, basically saying that if your vehicle gets broken in or your house gets broken into, they're saying for you to flee your home and do nothing because they can't do anything. And so anyway.
I have always been
Black woman attempts to drive to work. Lunatic white leftists block her from leaving. This guy could get a job, in law enforcement, military, paramedic, doctor, lawyer, anything he wants. But no, instead he's a troll, a loser troll.
What about my kids? I need my job. Look at this. Then what happens to my kids? I can't help you. But you can if you could just move out the way. You're not going to. How is this a peaceful?
I bet you these rioters are paid, and I bet you they're part of BLM riots too, as they're preventing a black woman from going to friggin' work.
No, it's not.
How do you as white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying to. We're just trying to leave. But I have a kid. If I don't leave, people are having their children taken and their parents. What about my kids? I need my job.
at this.
Then what happens to my kid?
What happens to my kid? I have to go to work to get the money to pay the rent and the food bills and the school. Come on.
But you can if you could just move out the way. You're not going to. How is this a peaceful protest if there's nothing to do? No, it's not.
How do y'all as white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this riot you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying.
The Pope this morning.
This friggin' guy, man. I love.
The Pope this morning had some very harsh words for the.
I got harsh words for the Pope. Pope want to fix the Catholic Church. I'm saying this as a lifelong Catholic. I was baptized Catholic. I was first communion as a Catholic, confirmation as a Catholic. He ought to fix the Catholic Church and concentrate on his work and leave border enforcement to us. He wants to attack us from securing our border. He's got a wall around the Vatican, does he not? So he's got a wall around to protect his people and himself, but we can't have a wall around the United States. So I wish he'd stick to the Catholic Church and fix that and leave border enforcement to us.
Sir. The Pope this morning had some very. The Pope this.
Carney made a post today, and I responded to it, but I also wanted to share it as a. Why does my camera keep on going off? Anyway, because I think people need to speak out directly to the people that this involves. So I don't know if you can see the post. Anyway, Netanyahu is a criminal who was fully aware of what was going to happen that day. They have done video. I have done videos on Rumble of this event, pre and post false flags and propaganda from his government, influenced Western media and biased leaders, politicians, and then I gave a few links. Again, this is not for Carney because he doesn't care, nor does he look at this stuff. Clearly, it's for people that are reading his posts. And so I don't have any more. I don't have my X up. Bear with me because I want to share his post. It's absolutely ridiculous. Here we go. Okay, so from Mark Carney, the Nova Scotia Festival exhibition tells the story of the brutal massacre carried out by the terrorist entity Hamas on October 7, 2023. Young Israeli revelers came together that day to dance and celebrate and were targeted by inconceivable violence. I came to witness accounts of the atrocities committed and hear directly from survivors and families of those murdered and taken hostage. We can't look away from this hate or from the rise in anti-Semitism we've seen in Canada since. We will fight to protect Jewish communities at home and advocate for long-term peace and security in the Middle East. You can't do that by lying to people about major events that have happened. Because even hostages that are Israeli Jews have spoken out on this and said who was shooting at the crowds, IDF and others within the Israeli government, ladies and gentlemen. And there's so much more that I share as well from Israeli people, from Jewish Israeli people and other people throughout the world that are exposing what actually happened. And Mark Carney is an idiot. Respectfully, he doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. He's been a banker, bureaucrat his entire life, knows nothing about the security industry, clearly. And yeah, that's who's leading us. This is where it would be nice if people within the House of Commons and elected leaders, they actually had real security experience. Real first responder type people that have been boots on the ground before becoming leaders. Is that too much to ask for? I don't know. It shouldn't be. And so now I'll just get back into my last video or clip, I mean. News updates for real. Who came to my house a couple weeks ago?
If you could please just stop scrolling.
What is this?
When you're looking at footage from the riots in California right now, you may as well be watching a movie. It's a movie set, okay? Straight up. So let's go over some things. Let's have the tough conversation. First off, the riots, I've been told this by local LA residents, the riots after the Lakers won the championship were way worse, and no one sent in the Marines, right? You remember that? Somehow I can't help but think this is all one big excuse to initiate martial law and to justify the mass policing of Americans through data, aka Palantir, Peter Thiel's company, okay? On top of that, check this shit out. Apparently, these flyers are popping up in Boston, Massachusetts. Boston, Massachusetts. So we've got what to do in a riot. Turn your phone off, hide your identity, prepare for tear gas. Don't get caught. Like, read the one. I can't even read it out loud because it's so absurd. But anyways, you get the drift. So you also have people handing out masks, people handing out bionic shields at the riots right now to the rioters, the protesters, the peaceful protesters. So what does that all mean? I'm gonna lay it on you. It means this is all a giant psyop. What's the purpose? I mean, there's multiple. It's a multi-pronged thing. Chaos, division, further surveillance, further hatred towards immigration and vice versa, right? Digging people in. Yeah, and here's the thing that no one's gonna like, but this is why I exist, to say these things that no one likes. There is no good side. Like, yes, the left is awful, and they are kind of supporting the riots. Gavin Newsom can suck a fucking hot dog, you know what I'm saying? But here's the thing, the right is also just as bad, because they're using these riots to try and justify further police state.
Thank you, Aurorian. Although there was a schedule conflict, and so I had to reschedule, and so it's actually tomorrow at 12 p.m. I'm sorry for that. I am excited about it as well. I've done a lot of studying, and I put notes together because there's things I want to make sure that I don't miss. And it is going to be a good show. It's going to be on astrotheosophy, biblical cosmology, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to talk about sacred numbers, geometry. I'm going to tie that into creation stories that have been told throughout the world and different interpretations of it. And the travel path of the luminaries.
Measures, okay? Because here's the rub. They're in on it together, folks. When you're looking at footage from the riots and...
Yeah, so he's on it. That's bang on. And so updates, like that's a lot of updates for a Wednesday, for a Wednesday morning still. But I might come on later and do another video. But on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.